Okay, so here is my starter that has been sitting. I'm going to put 1/4 cup into a clean container just because I need to clean this one. But you want to do about 1/4 cup. And then whatever you do in here with your starter, you want to multiply it by 4 to feed it. I didn't quite have 1/4 cup because some of it gets stuck. So because I put 1/4 cup of starter in here, I'm going to then feed this with an entire cup of flour and water. Now the rest of this, this container, I'll just toss because I've saved what I've needed. So now we're gonna feed our little bit of starter that we put in here. So I'm gonna take 1 cup of flour. Now, I use Kirkland's organic unbleached flour. I think the only thing I would recommend here is just using an unbleached flour. And then a cup of water. I'm gonna do warm water today, and if you read a lot about this, it's filtered. The stuff in your tap tends to have a lot of other stuff in it, so I do use filtered water from my fridge. In this case, I warmed it up a little bit just because I want it to activate a little bit quicker, because I plan on using this afternoon. If I'm just leaving it overnight and I'm going to use it the next morning, I'll go ahead and just use the cold water so that it seems to activate a little bit more slowly. So then you're just going to mix it together. I already mixed this. What I look for is something that looks or resembles kind of like a thick pancake batter. So this is perfect. I might stir it a little bit more to get a couple of those lumps out, but honestly, it's really not that big of a deal. Your starter just needs some food. Then you can take a look at the side of it to kind of see where it's at. Mine's high, especially for this bowl. So it's probably going to be close to the top when I go to use it, and it'll be nice and foamy, and I'll show you that in just a few hours. So again, not a ton of active time. If I wasn't talking about this, it probably would have taken me all of 2 minutes to do this. You can see I've already got some bubbles there on the top. So not a lot of active time. I'm just going to let this sit until it's fully activated and ready to use. Okay, so here is the starter. So you can see it's bubbled up on the side. Let's see the focus. And more importantly, you can see all those bubbles on top, okay? So I've gotten out all my ingredients. This is olive oil, salt, honey, and bread flour. And I just use the King Arthur bread flour, unbleached, from Costco because it's cost effective. I also have water. I do use filtered water in this, and I do warm it up in the microwave. All right, and a scale. So I'm gonna zero this out, and I'm gonna start by adding 200 grams of starter. All right. If you're not sure if your starter is ready, they say if you add your water first, which is fine too, it doesn't really matter, and your starter floats, then you are good to go. Now, I'm adding a lot of starter to this because this recipe that I like is actually makes 2 loaves. So that is why we are using so much starter. I don't really put a lot of energy into being super exact, especially on the starter. I figure it's just, flour. So if I'm a little over, I'm not super worried about it. And then you're going to do 550 grams of water. I do try to get pretty exact with the water. I do know it's going to be most of this. So, and you can see my starter's floating. So it was ready to go. All right, 550 grams. So I usually will give this a stir. Just kind of break it up a little bit, and then I'm going to zero that out. It's going to be 85 grams of honey. I'm also not super exact on this, so 110, close enough. I don't know that it really matters all that much. And then 1 tablespoon of salt. Again, I'm not gonna worry if I get a little bit over. And then 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I've had people say that they use coconut oil. I personally, like the recipe I used, said olive oil, so that's what I use. And I'll give this a mix again. And then I'm going to 0 tare it out again. And I'm gonna add 900 grams of bread flour. Here we go. And I do try to get pretty on the money with this as well. A few grams either way is not gonna make or break you. So I've mixed this pretty well. I use a dough hook. I found that this stainless steel one works best just because I broke my other one that looks like a real Danish dough hook. So I've been using this one just so I don't break it again. The dough is rather difficult to get fully mixed in this small bowl. I should have used a bigger one. Sorry for the beeping. But now I will go in and hand mix it a little bit just to make sure I get all of the flour integrated. Okay, so after I've mixed it by hand, this is what it looks like, and you are going to cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit for 30 minutes, and then we will do a stretch and fold. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes. So it's just sat here, done nothing, and then we're gonna do stretch and fold. And stretching and folding is just basically taking a piece of the dough, pulling it over on itself. Pretty easy. It's not gonna start to really come together until you do this, probably about 4 times. Some people do it a lot more. Usually 4 is good for me. But I'll show you how to check it when we get closer to that. So I just do this 4 to 5 times. Just make sure we're stretching it up, trying to get it a little bit looser, and this helps you build your gluten. All right, we are going to go ahead and cover this back up and set another 30-minute timer. All right, it's been another half hour. So we are gonna go ahead and do another stretch and fold. And again, just trying to stretch it up. Fold it over, stretch it up, fold it over. You can see that first stretch and fold, after that first stretch and fold, it really starts to kind of come together into what feels a little bit more like dough. Sometimes I'll use my other hand to keep the big dough ball down so that it will actually stretch. And then we are going to cover it again and set another 30-minute timer. Okay, so normally you do it in another 30 minutes, but my timer didn't set and I forgot. But it's fine. This sometimes happens. But I'm going to come back and do another stretch and fold. So this is number 3. What you're looking for is and it's a little cold today, so I can tell my dough's a little bit firmer. But you are wanting your dough to start to window pane. So what a window pane is basically, and we're almost there, like when you can stretch it really thin, but it doesn't tear. So you can see I can stretch it really thin, but it doesn't quite not tear. So hopefully on the next one will be our 4th one. And so hopefully that's when we will get that. All right, so this will be our 4th stretch and fold. And it is looking very elastic. It looks really nice. Again, just trying to get that stretch going. And let's just see if it's gonna window pane for us here. Hoping. See. Not terrible, but we could probably get away with doing it, but maybe just one more. But now what I'll do is I will get my dishes ready for the loaf pans, or my little loaf pans ready. I'm going to just basically slather them in butter. I found that butter works the best. I've tried sprays. I've tried. All right, so we are pretty much to that window pane. So stretching it thin, it's not breaking. Life is good. This never happens, but this is 1,800 grams exactly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull this out, and I just like to be exact. Some people don't care. So I like to just try to be as close as I can. So I'm going to go for 900 grams. Get this off and just put it over on I have a floured surface over here. So that's coming up here. All right, 10 more grams. I just like my loaves to look fairly even. So it doesn't have to be exact. I'm just a little bit weird about it. Okay, perfect. It doesn't have to be, but it's really nice when it is. Okay, so you don't really need your scale anymore. What we are gonna do next is yell at our dogs. Pickles, Pickles, no thank you, ma'am. Okay, so you're gonna kind of make this into like a rectangle, and what you're doing is you're actually, because this is sandwich bread, you're kind of pressing out any air bubbles that might have gotten in there. And then you will get more, you will get air bubbles. You will get air bubbles when you, when the proofing happens. So this is not really we have not done any proofing at this point. So anyway, I just try to get these out into like somewhat of a rectangle shape. Okay. And then you're basically just going to roll it and make what kind of will hopefully look sort of loafish. And then you tuck in the sides and try to make it look nice. Now I already have my buttered dishes right here. This one didn't come out very even, but my hope is always that whenever they go in and proof, that they will come out and look fairly decent. And if not, you're cutting them and toasting them and making sandwiches anyway, so it doesn't really matter. All right, so I'm gonna put this bad boy in, put it seam side down. I don't really like how that turned out, but that's fine. And then I'll do this guy. Gosh, so sticky sometimes. All right. All right, and then just tuck in this under. Just tuck in the corners to make sure it doesn't like bake up strange. All right. And then what I do for the so I do put plastic wrap over top of these. This one came out a lot nicer. I don't know what this little weird line is, but unfortunate. Okay, Tim's zooming in on my weird lines, but I like how this one looked a little bit better. But what I do here is I will cover these with saran wrap, but I generally will spray them and lightly dust them with flour just so that they don't stick to the top of my bread and I end up peeling and making it look weird. Kind of like this one. It'll like peel off and it'll make weird little peaks on your bread. But this is it. So I'm gonna so what we would do now is we would proof them. So I would put them in my oven on proof setting for probably 4 hours till they like dome up. But since it's late, I'm gonna actually just throw these in the fridge overnight. They're totally fine to sit in the fridge overnight, even up to a couple of days. But what we will do is tomorrow morning, because I plan to bake them tomorrow, I'll pull them out and I'll proof them tomorrow morning. Okay, so this is about what it should look like. And again, the plastic wrap, got a little bubble right there, but it's okay. It's not gonna always be perfect, but it's just kind of to the brim there. This one I think looks a little more ready, but we're gonna go with it. But the plastic wrap does kind of sit on the top, which is why I like flour it. I didn't flour it earlier and it kind of did these like little peaks there. So that's what I try to avoid, but I forgot to flour them yesterday and then I just didn't have time. That's what you're looking at. And again, they're just kind of almost like to the brim. If they go a little bit more, it'd probably be better. but we don't have time, so we're gonna bake them.